Let's make some torn fabric flowers. You could use cardboard as your center, or you can use like your wore out rusty mason jar lids. What really makes this primitive is to use branches as a stick for the stem of it. And then any fabric that you choose. I'm going to use my red, white, and blue for my Americana Patriotic do-it-yourself torn fabric ribboned flowers, and a little bit of polyfill or something to stuff it, maybe a leftover pillow or something of that nature. You're going to need your hot glue gun, and it's easy to make. These do-it-yourself primitive flowers, we are definitely going to use red, white, and blue. This will be my white. You could use muslin, or you can use your stars on your solids. These are the ones with off-white. They already look like they've been tie-dyed or tea-dyed. And the truth is, when you do tea-dye these type of fabrics, these stars are the only thing that's going to really change in color unless you go with a really, really deep tea or coffee stain. I'm going to use a mason jar lid. You can use cardboard or anything for your disc. To get started on these, we simply need to tear us off some fabric and decide then how big of a blossom you want to be the ribbon fabric flowers. And a lot of times what I do is I will kind of just take my fabric and cut me out a section, and a lot of times, because of my quilting habits and things that I do, I try to go at least 5 inches over. And I know for me, if I relax my hand and put my thumb out, that right there is usually my 5-inch mark. And then that way, if I'm quilting, I can get 5 to 6 inch squares, depending on how far over I cut that. And that will be a section that I have. And then I can keep my fabrics neatly doffed. And here's a little tip for you. I put how much fabric I've got, and I use this stretchy sheet stuff. You can also use amazing tape. And you can use shrink wrap from out of the drawer and just cut you some pieces, and it will cling to itself, and that just kind of keeps everything corralled and neat for you. So let me get my fabric cut here, and we'll get started. On this particular primitive flower, we are going to be doing blue on the outside. Just want to go about 1/2 inch or so, maybe 3/4. Snip it and then just rip it. And I'm going to start out with about 3 or 4 sections of this, because it's going to be my outer ring of my ribbons to make the petals. And it just happens in a jiffy. I'll do the same thing to my red, just finding an area that looks pretty good. Just go ahead and get you some strips ripped. The red does real good. I don't know why, but it really tears easy. I was doing some smaller pieces a while ago, and I was shocked how fast I could tear that, just barely pulling it. And then the white did pretty good too. And since these are a little longer, we've already been cutting on this one. Used it on the last flower. That'll help get me started. Now, the way I'll do this one is I need this whole out perimeter in the blue. So I'm just going to put my glue there and go with it. And then I can real easily determine how long I want those petals. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to leave these in a loop. And then if I need more fabric, I have it. And all these on this outer perimeter. So there'll be 2 more rows, red and then the white. That's kind of long, so let me bring it in a tad. Remember, they don't have to be identical, but this is going to be your outer circle. And the good thing is, with it going on the metal, if you get too far out, you can always unglue these. They're real easily pulled off of that metal. Just keep going around. That's the trick, is keeping it rounded. And when we do this next layer, we're going to come in just a tad on, make it just a little bit shorter. So these pieces right here may be a good 4 inches or more. And just making sure that we come in a little bit with these on our length. So that one right there, I know that if I go ahead and cut these, that's going to be just right for 3 pieces. And it moves pretty swiftly whenever you do your next layer, because you kind of know now you got your base built and you can come in a little bit. And you can even go in between the blue, and all I did was just move it up a little bit. Even if you get it right there, it's not going to hurt anything. It's still within. And all these strips are the same length, so it's not going to be hard to divide the difference. I know with mine, when I pulled them and ripped them, they're all coming off the same side, so they're all going to be the same length. Now I've got the red and the blue, now the white. And once again, it's going to be just a tad bit shorter. These strips are really about 5 inches long, but because you're coming inward with them, that's going to shorten the distance. And once again, I'm going in between the red there. That's my aim. It don't have to be exact because they are primitive and we want that look. That's what we're going for. We want a prim look. And once again, if your piece is just a little bit short, you can adjust it just like I did right there. You can kind of make up the difference. Just get part of it, because the center is going to cover all that and hold it firmly into place, so it's not going to go anywhere. And just keep working around, and by the time you add a little bit of glue to your next piece beside of it, takes care of it anyway. And the closer you go in, of course, the faster you seem to be able to move. Okay, on this one I'm going to make a navy blue center. So I'm just taking my hockey puck here, my black magic marker, and make me a circle, and I cut that out. Just taking my needle and thread and put me a running stitch in there so we can put our polyfill in the center. It only takes a second to go through there, especially if you have the thread doubled up. It just gives it strength when you're pulling on it. I'm notorious for doing these with a single strand of thread and a needle and just trying to get it closed up, because I know I'm going to glue it, and I kind of need to bear in mind that, you know, these things do get age on them, and somebody else might have them long after I'm gone. Sometimes I just get in a hurry. All right, now we've got this, and we can pull up, and I always have my other one with a knot, and it makes it easier for me to tie these once I get it pulled up. Now, I do not gather these up tight. I kind of leave them out like this because I really want them to have a nice round center. And I just put enough polyfill in there for that. And actually, I know it's a shortcut, but a lot of times I do wait until I've got it filled before I tie it. But maybe I will try something different. I never tie it beforehand, so let me try that and then fill it and see if that helps me any. Just so difficult to do it with these fingernails. I'm not used to having nails. Okay, now on this center, I've got my puff made for the center. And I'm going to use this burlap on this particular one. So I'm going to make this really, really narrow one. And I'm going to just take me a strand out where I can cut it. And that'll give me plenty that I can harness in the center here. I'll leave my fray out here. I'm going to put me enough glue in this center just to put this down in that center right there. And I love it just like that. It looks absolutely gorgeous just like that. Now, I don't have much glue in there because I want to be able to go around with this. Now, the trick here is it makes it more difficult, but it does give it some leniency putting it under that flower. Let me just try. All right, so let me start down here. Edge, you can see my green string, edge of that burlap there. And if you have to, you can, move your burlap by like pushing on it, want it to go around. See how I'm just kind of maneuvering real slow. You ain't got to be in no hurry. Gathering of the burlap just helps it, and it looks better. Pushing it under there. I do always end up having plenty of this glue on my fingernails. And then see, like those are a little long. That's okay, because I'll just put my stick here. Now that I've got this part done, kind of fluff it out a little bit. Now, that's looking really good. You can also, like with cinnamon, and not put any grunge on it because I really like the color of it. And it only takes a spot of that cinnamon. The holes in this are so big, I need to change it out. And it smells wonderful. And that's all it takes. Now, that just looks really good in person. I don't know how well you can see on the video, but it looks great. So the next step is we can put our back on it. So we'll get our stick, and of course you can use a square of fabric if you like. That's what I always do. Here is my stick. I'm just using my grapevine stick, and again I use my painter's tape. Now again, I do the same thing. Make sure where I want that stick, I want it to fall in between those two petals there. Go ahead and I get that part, and then I will put my glue out here on this metal. I've already pre-sanded it so that way it's good and sticks. Then I put that tape over top right with that glue, and this won't ever come loose. I hang pictures the same way. This is my method, and if you want to make sure that don't ever come loose, ever get flimsy or weak, it's the best way to do it. It does not have to be round. I did a square one on the last one. I will just take and glue of that stem so it works like a guard and keeping that from sliding up and coming out the top or something. And it just looks so nice and professionally done, just really clean and spiffy. Let it good and dry before you pull on it. That way you make sure it holds that weight. Let that dry. Now let's work on our tag. For this tag, I'm actually going to use some craft paper. I think it would look just awesome. Use my crimping shears so that way it has a pretty look to it. I don't know how long I'm going to make it, but I'm going to go ahead and crumble it up in my hand. Gives it that old look. Softens that paper up real good. And now I can put something neat. Most likely I'll put Prim USA. That'd be super cute on there. Now I went ahead and I got my Prim stamped on there. I did the back side. I also discovered that my R is written upside down on my stamps. That's why when I pick it up right, it's doing it backwards because I wrote it upside down. So it is my fault. Alright, I'm going to take a piece of G-twine and just put it on my tag so I can add it to my flower. Pin it there. That way I can move it. So I think the pin would be better, a safety pin. I mean, you could glue it, but it's not going to dangle loose. And that might be troublesome if you really don't want it to be messed up. And my tie I don't want to stay tight, so I'm going to put a little glue on there. This is the G-twine is real stiff. It's not doing as well. There we go. Won't have no future problems with that. I'm sure you will enjoy making one of those. That looks really cute. And as I said, it don't matter. It's not coming loose. It'll be on there for a very, very long time. And you can always pin that tag further down here. It's really a personal preference, and I may move it myself. A red, white, and blue do-it-yourself primitive flowers with our fabric ribbon. I'm always so proud of how beautiful these flowers turn out. For a patriotic or primitive DIYs, try these out. You can find the playlist in the description box down below. Be sure to share with someone who enjoys crafts like this, like, and comment. Till the next DIY, this is Elizabeth. I'll be crafting y'all.